Welcome back to the Fantasy Hockey Hacks podcast. We are snowbound here in Saskatchewan. I think all of us are pretty much stuck in our houses. Well, except for maybe John. John's got a big enough truck. He could probably get out.
Yeah, I'll get out. I'm not concerned.
We are going to do the fantasy preview here for week 21. That would be the week of, I didn't change the date on there again. I always forget something in the show notes, and I forgot to put the date on there. But it is week 21 of the fantasy hockey season. Oh boy, we're just going off the rails early here.
Bruce did say, I'm gonna start the show by saying Bruce told us he's exhausted because he's been shoveling snow all day. So if he's a little off, that'll be why. And actually, Bruce, I'm right there with you, man. But you have a
snowblower. I have a shovel.
That is true, but I still spent probably. And I shoveled too. I shoveled for quite a bit. I spent probably 2.5 hours clearing snow today. And I
have a 7-foot pile of snow by my house that I shoveled by hand this afternoon.
No, I don't need to do that anymore. I did that enough. I did that for 2 more years after I got rid of my old snowblower. And then it was like, no, I'm done with that. So
I just can't justify buying one for like 3 days a year.
That's what I said. But you know what? I found a really good deal on Marketplace. It was only like $500 maybe.
Yeah, it's still too much. I can buy a lot of shovels for $500.
I don't know, man.
I only need 4.
Save your knee,
I only
Bruce.
need 4. I got 4 kids. They can just grab a shovel and shovel.
That is true. You've got the manual labor. I don't have that
even
right
almost
now.
I need one more kid, and I can do the flying V.
Yeah. Nathan helped me shovel snow for about blow snow for about 10 minutes, and then he was done, and then he went away. He went and played. Yeah. So I'm not getting the manual labor you are. That's for sure.
All right. Well, we're totally off the rails now, which is a great start for this
I watch people shovel snow.
It's a typical start for this show.
Oh boy. So as I mentioned, we are fantasy preview for week 21. I am your host, Bruce. Tonight joining us, we have from Martinsville. I think that's where you are, isn't it, John?
Currently, yes.
Currently residing.
Yes.
Are you podcasting from your igloo, or are you in a?
It's nice and warm in here. I don't know. I watch people shovel all day, so
there you go. And from his looks like nice and toasty house in Saskatoon, Devon Davidson.
Yes, sir. It is quite toasty in here. Just for the record, my truck is also big enough to get out of the snow here too. So
my car is not.
But man,
what's that?
Well, I was going to say, but man, everywhere, like a foot in your driveway, probably. John, you said you got about a foot in your place, and I think the thing too is the wind, right? Like everything's drifted so much.
Yeah. Well, that was a foot when I shoveled this morning.
Yeah.
Then I had to go back out when I brought Tammy home. I had to go back out and shovel again.
Yeah.
And even since then, my car is basically a snowdrift.
Yep.
Because I haven't wiped any of the snow off of it yet, so it's basically a snowdrift.
Well, because my driveway faces kind of north, I've probably got I had 4 and 5 foot drifts in my driveway. It was crazy.
Yeah, it's good old Saskatchewan weather.
Yep. Anywho.
All right. And again, we're way off the rails. Well, let's start off with John's list, shall we? Since John is here, we might as well say John's list. John's list, if you're a regular listener of the podcast, you're undoubtedly familiar with John's list. John's shit list of players, past and present. We throw an occasional commissioner, GM, coach, or newsworthy topic from around the world. And John, tonight's contestant is
Jonathan Quick. They just don't like the guy. Didn't like him when he was in LA all those years. Really didn't like the team. Kopitar, really, is the only guy I liked on those teams. And didn't like him in Vegas. Didn't like him now. So I don't know what else to say. He's a good player, but no, don't like him.
He seemed to turn back time this year for a while when Shesterkin was having his issues. He put the team on his shoulder and he earned himself even a contract extension this morning.
I saw that, and that's kind of what. I don't like that guy.
Was it for 1 year at 1.75, Bruce? Is that what the number was?
It was a year. I don't know the number, but it wasn't a very big number.
Yeah. Like I thought, yeah, exactly. It was a reasonable dollar amount for what he can still provide at times. He's had some rough outings, to be honest. But he had some really good starts in February, end of January, start of February too. So
yeah, let's see. Whoops.
So 1.275.
1.27. Okay, there you go.
Yeah. So you got a raise.
Yeah. On the season, great numbers, right?
50% raise.
245 goals against, 916 save percentage, and 2 shutouts.
Not bad for a 38-year-old.
I was just going to say, you can't expect
Still
much
don't
more
like
from an old veteran.
Yeah.
But, John, I'll agree with you. He had a little bit of a Jordan Binnington light sort of thing going on there, right, when he was in L.A.?
Yeah.
Like, he was a bit of a hothead, I thought.
Fiery.
He was fiery. He was a fiery goaltender. And, of course, I don't think any of us like those Kings teams from 12 and 14.
No.
Not really, no.
No, not at all.
I mean, I know, John, you were a big Jeff Carter guy in 12 and 14.
Oh,
but
shut up. I really don't like that guy.
that's okay. So there you go, Jonathan Quick.
Yep.
All right. Let us move into Fantasy Lock of the Week.
I really
I
like
could
this
have
guy.
just... What's that?
I really like this guy.
I could have just coughed out and just left Connor McDavid in there and just changed the stats from the last 10 games. But it's like, I kind of felt if I did that, it'd be just too much of a homer for doing it 3 weeks in a row. So,
Well, hey, we should probably acknowledge that he finally scored after a 10-game
Yeah.
he
absence.
did finally get a goal.
Slow
I
clap.
liked his, I liked the way he said, "Oh, there was nobody to pass to."
Yeah,
So
that was
might as
pretty
well
funny.
Shoot.
Trolling the media guys. He said something too, like Hyman gave up on the play. He was laughing when he said it. It was pretty funny.
Yeah. Because Zach Hyman would give up on a play.
Yeah, exactly.
He's probably doing a line change. Anyway, our fantasy lock of the week is Sidney Crosby. For the Pittsburgh Penguins, he is rostered by everybody everywhere.
As it should
Crosby
be.
had 7 points this last week, a goal and 6 assists, including 3 power play points. The 36-year-old has shown no signs of slowing down. He is currently on pace for 89 points this season, averaging just under 20 minutes time on ice and just over 4 minutes on the power play. He is currently 22nd in league scoring this season. That's not bad at all.
I love Sidney Crosby. We've talked about this lots. John, I'm right there with you, man. This is one of my all-time favorite hockey players.
Yep, agreed. He
But
just,
the
he
team
just brings
just
everything
can't-
to the table.
What's that?
He just brings everything to the table.
But the rest of the team sucks.
Yeah,
I mean,
doesn't matter.
look at last night. They just find new ways to lose. It's like it's almost painful to watch.
It actually is, Bruce. It's really sad that we're watching the end of the Crosby Cup eras, right? Like I think we all, and I know I'm guilty of it. We all sat here in the summer and said, this kind of feels like they could do it one more time with the personnel they have. And I think individually and from a fantasy perspective, a lot of these guys have had decent seasons, but as a team and their power play is just abysmal. It's like,
Yeah, you would think with that many basic, you look at it, they're going to have 4 Hall of Famers for sure there.
Yeah.
And Crosby, Malkin, Letang, and Carlson. And they can't generate a damn thing. Like,
no, it's brutal. And they're not going to make the playoffs. I think I checked this morning. They were like 10 points back of a wild card spot with, 20 some games left to play. It's not going to
it'll be
happen.
tough.
And it's, so what do you do if you're Sidney Crosby? You've got this year and I think next year on your contract. He probably almost guaranteed he wants to retire as a Penguin. Most of these players do. He's won his cups. He doesn't need to chase anything. But from a fan perspective, I just hate that we're probably not going to see him in the playoffs again this year, and really most likely not next year either. He can't. I don't think that's the expectation anymore.
Too bad Oilers couldn't trade for him. I think I said that a few weeks ago. I'd love to see the Oilers trade for him. He'd be fantastic, but there is just no way they could make the cap work unless basically Edmonton gave Pittsburgh everything and retained like 70% of his salary. Well, actually, they can only retain 50, right? So they'd have to find someone to retain more. So basically, you're giving up all your draft picks and pretty much all your prospects. But
I think Pittsburgh missed the window to really cash in on these guys, right?
Last year.
They just should have done it last year. They should have said, sorry, Letang, sorry, Gino. Thank you for your service. See you later. And, just basically gotten a stockpile of picks and moved on. But so it's really too bad.
Yeah.
But I think, in a dream scenario, we'd see Crosby sign with the Oilers as a free agent when he's, 38 years old and
for $1 million.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Just for cheap
or $870K just because of his jersey number.
There you go. But I mean, Crosby at age 37 or 38 would still be a really effective player, especially in the right role, right?
Look at what he's doing. Look at what Pavelski's doing. Even like Malkin, it's like age doesn't seem to matter to these guys. Like Malkin's, as he's getting older, he's actually had a couple of his better years. He hasn't had, knock on wood, I don't think he's been injured this season.
Yeah, a truly generational player like Sidney Crosby, they do defy age a little bit, or the age-related decline seems to happen a little bit later. And I think with the type of game Sid plays, he probably could be effective for a little bit longer, right?
He could play as long as he wanted to, basically. I think if he wanted to play into his 40s, he probably could.
Yep. When did Chelios stop playing? He was like
42, I think.
Something like that, right? Yeah, he was up there. So I think Sid's still got a few good years left in him.
I agree.
Be nice to see. And since I always get flack for not giving some defensemen some love in this podcast, our honorable mention this week is Josh Morrissey, defenseman for the Winnipeg Jets. Josh had 8 points in 4 games last week, all assists, including 2 power play points.
There's a guy that I don't know, maybe just undervalued, underestimated, but man, he's been really good the last 2 seasons.
All it took was the right coach, I guess.
I think too, once they decided to just make him the guy, right? There was some back and forth between him and Pionk, and I think as fantasy managers, we all looked at that and we didn't like the situation. And I'm just reading this on Frozen Tools. Logan Stankoven was demoted to the AHL Texas on Sunday per cap friendly. So I don't know if that's a paper transaction or not, but that certainly affects our first waiver wire recommendation, Bruce.
It does, but they did this before.
They did.
They do this after, it seems like after every game they send him down. I think it's for cap reasons. They send him down.
That's what I mean. Is it a paper transaction? And
I don't think he's going anywhere.
He certainly should not be.
Not until Sagan's healthy anyway.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
even then they might have to Mark Stone somebody so they can keep him up.
Well, he's not making a pile of cash either, right?
Well, no, he's on his entry level deal, so he's making basically he's making very little.
Yeah.
It'll just be bonuses that they'd have to pay, so that would be the only thing.
I mean, yeah.
Worth it.
Worth it.
Absolutely. Ryan, did he pick him up off the waiver wire this morning? Or was it yesterday morning?
I did see that, but he's a big Stankoven guy. He probably couldn't believe his eyes when he saw that he was actually available in that one league. So
I thought about doing it, but I didn't really feel like making a roster move, so I didn't.
Yeah. Okay, what do we got here for edge work, Bruce?
All right, for edge work this week for week 21, this is the segment where we put in the work. Oh, God. Maybe I should have had a drink before we started the podcast. Let's try this again. The segment where we put in the work to give you the edge in your fantasy hockey leagues. Each week, the Hacks will cover the schedule, waiver wire targets to guide you to victory. Here's what you need to know. So welcome to week 21. This follows a familiar pattern with a total of 52 games on the schedule this week, 3 full days, which is Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, and 4 late days. The late days are where 50% or fewer of the NHL teams are in action. In terms of optimizing the schedule for games played, 11 teams play 4 games next week. Of those, Arizona, Calgary, Chicago, and Toronto play 2 of their 4 games on late days. Also of note, Anaheim and California. Oh, God. Anaheim and Colorado also play all 3 of their games this coming week on late days. The teams to fade this week are the Rangers again and Tampa Bay, Washington, as they only play 2 games this week. So just a quick recap. Monday has 6 games. Tuesday has 9. Wednesday has 3. Thursday, 12. Friday, 4. Saturday has 13 games. And we round out the schedule on Sunday with 5 games. And then we have in our show notes, I've got each of the teams listed out here, or we have each of the teams listed out of where they are with the 3 and the 4 game seas this week. Edmonton's got 4 games. Yay.
Nice.
I need some points in my ESPN league. This week was rather a dismal showing for my team. I think they took the week off. My goaltenders, I probably should let them all go. I don't think they won a game this week.
Oh.
Yikes. Anyway, on to waiver wire targets for week 21. Our waiver wire targets will all be focused on players that are rostered in 50% or less in Yahoo or Fantrax leagues. When considering players to target, we review recent performance, player deployment, the upcoming schedule, and more. So let us start with forwards. Devon, you started off with talking about Mr. Stankoven. You can just continue right on through.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Logan Stankoven, center eligible for the Dallas Stars, rostered in 8% in Yahoo leagues, 48% in Fantrax. Assuming it's just a paper transaction and we see him play this week, he's got 3 games on the road against San Jose, Anaheim, and LA. So, Bruce, as you had mentioned, probably 3 kind of juicy matchups. For sure, 2 of them are, and depending on which LA team shows up. But I would say fantasy-friendly matchups there. He's right now playing on, I guess you can call their third line with Jamie Benn and Wyatt Johnson, and then on power play too. It wasn't a great outing for Logan Stankoven on Saturday against the Sharks, at least from a fantasy perspective. However, the young star did have 4 points, 3 goals in 3 games played prior to that, and he's been brilliant in the AHL this season. 57 points, 24 goals in 47 games played. I don't know where he stands amongst the leaders in the AHL, but he's been fantastic there.
He was the leader.
So there
before his call up.
Okay, so I didn't fact check that, but there you go. I mean, he's had a brilliant season, averaging 3 shots on goal per game and 1.2 hits per game. Doesn't hurt his fantasy stock either, and he's got to be, in terms of prospects, he's got to be right there in terms of the ranking at the top of the prospects leaderboard. So if he's available. You know what? That's a guy you got to go and grab. And I'm sure in keeper and dynasty formats, he's obviously not available. But
he'd be long gone if he's available in your keeper league or those big dynasty leagues or keeper leagues where you can keep a bunch of players. But yeah, in dynasty, I can't. If there's a league where he's available in dynasty, then there's something wrong with that league, I think.
Well, and even looking at the
or
Fantrax
they
numbers, right? Like 48% in Fantrax. So there's probably like in some leagues he will be available, which is really interesting. But
it depends how deep your prospect list can be in dynasty too. There's so many different ways you can configure dynasty and keeper and that
for sure. But for regular season, season long redraft leagues, Logan Stankoven absolutely needs to be rostered more than 8% in Yahoo.
Yeah, definitely.
This next guy, Bruce, I saw Tyler picked him up today.
Did he?
He sure did. Yeah,
of course he did.
And where is Tyler? We could have got Tyler to talk about him.
We could have.
Instead, we'll ask John to.
There you go.
So, I guess that's a trade-off. Next guy we got on here is Max Pacioretty, left wing with Washington, rostered 17% Yahoo, 44% Fantrax. Real only downside for Pacioretty this next week is the fact that Washington only plays twice, but both games are against struggling non-playoff teams in Pittsburgh and Chicago. He appears to be rounding in the form with 15 points in 24 games, 82 game pace of 51 points, 8 points and 2 goals in his last 10, though, which shows some offensive production that the former Hab is capable of. And for those playing in Bangers leagues, the 1.2 hits a game over the last 10 should definitely interest you as well.
He's also one of the few healthy forwards that Washington has.
Correct.
He's still on power play too, which I'm surprised by.
Really?
Like last I checked on Daily Faceoff, they had Anthony Mantha on power play 1. I'm guessing they just don't want to push him too much, right? Like I'm sure they're concerned about that Achilles, and there's not really any reason to push him.
Because he's averaging about 14 minutes a night.
Yeah, they're definitely limiting his time on ice. But I mean, I really like Max Pacioretty, and going back to kind of his prime days in Montreal, he was fantastic.
Right, he was fantastic.
So, I didn't like him.
We know, John, we know. But just speaking purely statistically, he was fantastic, right? I mean, in terms of hits per game and his shot rate and just all that kind of stuff, he was great. So if you can get even a fraction of that back playing in Washington, I think he's worth a look this week.
Yeah, he did actually play 17 minutes tonight too, just over. So
there you go.
Very good. Next guy on the list here is Tommy Novak from the Nashville Predators. He is currently rostered 4% in Yahoo, 42% in Fantrax. Keep saying those Fantrax guys know more than the Yahoo guys do, that's for sure. They played 4 games this week, at home to Montreal and Buffalo, and then on the road to Columbus and Minnesota. He is playing on a line that's not numbered with Mark Jankowski and Luke Evangelista. And he has got a spot on power play 1. Tommy Novak has really stepped up offensively. He's another one of those guys that seems like after the All-Star break or late season, he did this last year too, except it was after the trade deadline. I think last year is when he started stepping things up. 13 points, 5 goals in his last 13 games played, bringing his 82 game pace up to 55. What the heck did I just say? In his last 13, bringing his 82 game pace up to 55 games to that doesn't make
his 82
Did
game
I write
pace
that?
is, no, that was me, Bruce. He brought his 82 game pace up to 55
Okay.
to date this season.
I'm like, did I really write that? That's something I would write.
No, that was my my late night typing after I got back to it. So
Novak's production is down from a 69-point pace he played during the identical 51 games last season, but that shouldn't deter fantasy managers from at least streaming the 26-year-old. I know I've been keeping an eye on him all season waiting for something like this, but I've kind of, as I mentioned before, I've kind of drafted myself into a hole where I have to have injuries and other stuff before I can actually start picking up forwards.
I don't love Novak's line mates so much right now. Like Jankowski sort of is a fantasy afterthought, and Evangelista's had some success. But I mean, for me, it's just the fact that he's been productive. He's getting power play 1 time. I think he's worth rostering for sure this week with those 4 games you mentioned. And then beyond that, I would see where it goes. Like if he falls off a cliff against some of these teams this week, maybe I'm looking elsewhere as I'm heading down the stretch.
Agreed. Yep.
All right. Who wants to talk about the next guy?
I can cover him, Bruce. This one's interesting. Tyson Foerster, who was not on my radar at all, but going through social media, you see some of these guys pop up every once in a while, and he's center right wing eligible for Philadelphia. 16% rostered in Yahoo, 43% in Fantrax. They've got 3 games this week. It's gonna be a tough schedule: St. Louis, Florida, and Tampa. But he's on line 1 with Scott Laughton and Joel Farabee. You got to think Scott Laughton's being rolled out on. He's being showcased, right, at top line center, no question. But Forrester's getting power play 1 time as well. So given his prime deployment, the results have been good. He's a productive player to the tune of 7 points, 6 goals in his last 5 games. Dual eligibility obviously helps his fantasy value. And for banger leagues, he's averaging 1.4 hits per game. So a really nice streaming option there, especially with dual eligibility. That's always a nice bonus.
Very, very nice. John, you get Mr. Bertuzzi.
Oh, Joey, another guy I don't like.
I know.
I don't
Are there
like
any guys you really do like, though, John?
Not really.
Leon Draisaitl.
Oh,
Well, Sidney Crosby. We know Sidney Crosby. And that's beyond that, I'm not sure there's many more. Or in Flurry.
Yep, exactly. Next guy we got on here is Tyler Bertuzzi, left wing with Toronto, roster 23% Yahoo, 60% Fantrax. 4 games this week: Boston, Buffalo, Boston again, and Montreal. Playing on that second line with Max Domi and Willie Nylander. Also getting some power play 1 time as well. 7.6 goals, 3 power play points, 8 hits, 9 blocks, and 67% power play share over his last 8 games made Tyler Bertuzzi a great option, particularly this upcoming week with that 4-game schedule. Note Bertuzzi's 27.3-ish over this recent productive streak. So also temper your expectations a little bit there, but the guys played extremely well.
That ish is totally sustainable. 27%, of course.
That's a super iffy-ish, Bruce.
It's a nice ish.
The most iffy.
It's nice.
I did notice last night, like, no points for him, and actually, like, from a fantasy perspective, last night was not great against the Rangers, but he did get 2.5 minutes on the power play, which is 60% power play share, and just about 17 minutes time on ice has been one of his better better games of the
Yep.
last 10. Probably his second most ice time of the last 10 games. So I kind of like where he's trending, and hopefully this continues, down the stretch into the playoffs.
You guys
Agreed.
see Domi's shootout goal on Shesterkin last night?
No, I missed it.
He made a couple of nice. It's just beautiful. Come down and poof. And Shesterkin's like, how the hell did that get past me? It was his birthday yesterday, too.
I missed it. Domi's birthday or Shesterkin's?
Domi's.
Oh, well, that's a nice birthday gift.
Yeah.
Let's just see.
Shootout winner.
There you go.
Also, we have let's see if I can butcher this name. Matthias Michelli. 8% in Yahoo, 46 in Fantrax. So he's got 10 points, 4 goals in his last 10 games played. He is currently on pace for nearly 60 points against this season. He just seems to do this very quietly.
He does.
It doesn't jump off the page. Just quietly puts up 60 points.
But Bruce, anything you do in Arizona is usually done pretty quiet.
That's true. That's very true. I don't know if anyone watches the games there.
we know nobody does.
Barring injury, he will set a new career high in goals. 4-game schedule for the Oats this week, along with some power play 1 deployments. Because, they got to fill in for Clayton Keller, who's been out the past few games here as well. And playing massive minutes over the last 3 games makes Michelli a very intriguing option. That it does.
I was just looking at the numbers here from Michelli. He was like, I'm just going to pull it up here. So I guess he played tonight 16:55, but before that, 20:39, 20:08, and 21:19 time on ice. Lots
nice.
and lots of ice time, yeah.
Very, very nice. That does it for forwards this week. We will move on to defensemen. I'll start it off here with our first defenseman on the list is Mr. Owen Power of the Buffalo Sabres. Roster 21% in Yahoo, 71 in Fantrax. We got 3 games this week. We got on the road to Toronto and Nashville, and they will host the Oilers at the end of the week here. He is on pair number 2 with Jacob Bryson. Power's been on a bit of a roll this week. 5 points, 2 goals, and 3 assists in the past 4 games. 2 of those assists came on the... Wow, did I write that? Boy. 2 of those points came on the power play. He's averaging right around 23 minutes a night time on ice. He's only getting an average of 45 seconds on the power play, which makes those 2 power play assists really as of note, because if that's fairly efficient if you can do that in 45 seconds. He also does provide some category coverage. In the course of the last 4 games here, he put out 4 hits and 7 blocks. The next guy on the list here, I didn't check the show notes from last year, but I think this is a bit of a rehash. But John, you want to take us through the next one?
Last year or last week?
Last year? Did I say last year?
It might have been 2 weeks ago, even, Bruce. I'm not sure that we talked about him last week, but yeah, for sure we covered him recently, but that's okay.
Yeah,
it's all right. It's all right.
Nobody picked him up. That's why he's still on here.
So who we've got on here is Torrey Krug with St. Louis there, roster 26% Yahoo, 57% in Fantrax. 4 games this week: Philly, the Islanders, New Jersey, and the Rangers. Playing on a second pairing with Justin Falk and gotten some PP1 time as well. We've talked about him recently, but his recent performance of 3 points in his last 3 games and the Blues' upcoming schedule, it'd be hard to overlook him. He's taken back that top power play role, averaging just under 26 minutes a night and just under 4.5 minutes on the power play as well. So he's definitely getting the opportunity in the deployment there. So
I had to check that number twice when it was 26 minutes time on ice, because I'm like, holy crap. But I went back that was his average for the 3 games last week, was 26 minutes.
Yep.
Good for him. It seems like him and the team have kind of moved on from the earlier Kibosh trade situation.
They wanted to send him off to the Flyers for whatever reason. Kevin Hayes.
Yeah.
Not too sure. Devon, you want to take the next one?
Yeah, Pavel Mintyukov for the Anaheim Ducks, rostered in 14% of Yahoo leagues, 56% in Fantrax. He's got 3 games this week: Ottawa, Dallas, and the Islanders all at home. He's on the first pairing with Radko Gudas and on power play 1. We all kind of knew he was going to be the guy once Jamie Drysdale moved out of town. Cam Fowler's been serviceable in the top power play unit, but he's not really the guy. So with a great schedule, he's got 3 games at home, and all 3 of them are on off nights. I think Bruce, you'd mentioned that earlier in Edgework, so that's great. He's got 4 points in his last 6 games, averaging just under 22 minutes per game, including just over 2 minutes on the power play. So lots to like about Pavel Mintyukov. He's on a 39-point pace for his rookie season, which I think if he can put up 40 points, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And that team's only going to get better, and he's going to improve. And that's another guy. Well, you know what? It's funny. I was actually listening to the Puck Poolies podcast yesterday, and they were talking about the Ducks, and Stephen Ellis, who's the prospect guy over at Daily Faceoff, was just saying that this group feels a little bit more secure, right? He thinks this is a group that could really push forward as opposed to some of those previous guys. So I guess we've seen that before, but I really do like some of these young guys they've got here, and Pavel Mintyukov obviously is one of them.
Absolutely. That does it for defensemen. We will move on to goaltenders now. So we will start off with Mr. Philipp Grubauer of the Seattle Kraken. Roster 27% in Yahoo, 44% on Fantrax. 3 games on the slate for them. They are on the road to Calgary and Winnipeg, and then they will host Winnipeg. His current role, I guess we could say, I think after his last couple of games here, he's taken the starting role back, possibly over Daccord.
He has, for sure.
So in 6 appearances here since February 13th, Grubauer has posted a 4-1 record, 1.56 goals against average, and a .942 save percentage, and a 5.88 goals saved above average, including 1 shutout. See, I got the acronym right this time.
That a boy.
Almost didn't, but I got it right.
Nice work, Bruce. You almost tripped it up, but you nailed it.
For those that have been leaning on Joey Daccord, for a significant stretch of season, now is definitely the time to handcuff him with Grubauer, who has started 6 of the last 8 games for Seattle. Yeah. I dropped Daccord the other day here.
I
picked up
too,
Alex
Bruce.
Lyon.
Yep.
I might as well kept Daccord.
No, well, it was a tough outing for Lyon, and actually I've got Lyon on. So in the ESPN league we play, and I had Lyon and Daccord. Obviously I dropped Daccord, Bruce, because you had him in Yahoo. You knew exactly what was going on in that situation.
Yeah.
And it's tough. Like he had such a good run, and then all of a sudden it's like he hits a rough patch, and then Seattle's like, see you later. And complement that with Grubauer absolutely crushing it in his last 6 games. Like it's pretty much bye-bye Daccord time, and Alex Lyon is probably approaching that too. Hey, Bruce? Like if he keeps playing the way he is.
Yeah, the only problem is, who do they go to in Detroit? I don't know if Reimer is that guy, and Husso is still hurt.
That's just it. So I think Lyon is still a little safer.
Yeah.
And Detroit is pretty securely in a playoff spot right now. So to me, like, I'm going to be a little more patient with Alex Lyon, but Joey Daccord, I think the writing was on the wall.
Mm-hmm. I think so. He might be more future guy as opposed to, but it's good to see, right? So we will see how that shakes out. Mm-hmm. Devon, you want to take the next one here?
Yeah, I guess this is.
I was pretty general on this one.
No, that's okay. This is kind of just the general tandem for the Anaheim Ducks, and this is sort of a go-to for us, mostly because of the schedule, right? So
yeah,
Lucas Dostal and/or John Gibson, whoever you can kind of get your hands on as a spot starter, as a streamer for the week. 5% for Dostal in Yahoo, 36% for John Gibson, and then 35 and 53 in Fantrax. 3 games on the schedule, as we mentioned, all on off nights. Dostal could be the guy, and he's obviously going to be the guy of the future. But they've got winnable games against Ottawa and the Islanders, and the Ducks have won their last 2 games. So if you're feeling spicy, if you're willing to risk it to get the biscuit, as Tyler says, go ahead and grab Dostal and just hope he gets peppered and steals a couple games this week, and that just might be the difference for you.
It could be. I haven't been brave enough to roster either one of them yet.
And they're so hit and miss, though.
They really are.
It's like, we'll save everything, or it's like, we're just gonna let everybody score. It's like,
I would feel pretty comfortable rostering Lucas Dostal against Ottawa because they've been atrocious this year. So that's one I think I'd take at home.
And they don't have a starting NHL goaltender right now either.
Yeah, and Dallas, no, I don't feel great about that one. That's a really boomer bust pick. And then the Islanders, you just don't know. Like, I still don't think of them as a really offensive team, but they could surprise you too, right?
They sure surprised the hell out of the Bruins last night.
And that's just it, right? So you could be, again, it could be a boom or bust pick there, but they're both readily available, and I guess worth a shot, right?
And I think if I remember correctly, these are all home games too for Anaheim. So Ottawa and the Islanders are out of times, well out of their time zone too. So that can also play a bit of a role in it.
Yeah, I think with the travel, like if you're the Islanders, you're making, and I don't know where they're coming from, if they're on a back-to-back or anything, but if you're making that trek to California, and they've just been, they're going to be well rested, right? They've been at home all week, so
yeah, exactly. Well, unless anyone else has got something to add, that's all I had.
Nope, that's it for me too.
That's it. That's all.
That's it.
Make sure you watch the Montana's Briar this week, boys. Okay, don't miss out. It's good action.
Yeah, I'll get right on that.
Can't see through all the freaking snow.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah, that's the reason I can't watch TV is because there's snow outside.
Snow is interfering with my TV connection.
Yeah, exactly.
the old rabbit ears, Bruce. You got the old rabbit ear antennas on the roof, or what?
I'm old and cheap, so yeah. Rabbit ears is the only way to go. Oh wait, can't get those on can't get TSN through rabbit ear, so I guess I'm really screwed then. So
You're in trouble. Yeah.
Oy. All right, folks, that's it for this week. Thanks for listening. You can find us on Twitter or X at FHHacks and on Instagram at Fantasy Hockey Hacks. Don't forget to check out our live show, Hacks Hangout, every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Mountain on EdmontonSportsTalk.com and on YouTube.com/heavyhockey. Buddy, have a good evening.
Bye, Felicia.
Take care.